What are we expecting from Diego Pavia and this offense in 2025? Big things? Probably. Definitely.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton, and today we discuss our expectations for Vandy's offense in 2025. We have some better information coming into the season. It's still very limited because it's just the start of spring, but what do we think their identity is going to be? Now, I know all the excitement is there for Diego Pavia coming back, and he won the lawsuit and everybody's all excited about it. But what does that mean exactly? What are we excited about? What are we expecting from year 2 of Diego Pavia? It's been real quiet for him this spring, honestly, but that's probably by design. But how do we define success for this offense? What are we looking at? Next, Vanderbilt struggled its way through a win versus Eastern Kentucky. Ended up having a walk-off. But what kind of spark do they need to get going? Is this the spark? Is this kind of the wake-up call? We'll talk about that as we wrap up the show. But thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Now, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So that's right, get $200 in bonus bets. That's amazing. So, let's start with this offense, and what the guiding question is this: what are our expectations in 2025? Because what we know is this offense was very, very strong in the run game, especially the quarterback run game with Diego Pavia. They did a lot of great things establishing their identity. They did a lot of good things, moving the ball, pre-snap motions, things like that, establishing an option attack, you name it. That's, in the run game, they were outstanding in 2024. The pass game was hit or miss, mostly, and down the stretch, a lot of miss, but hit or miss here and there, depending on how consistent the receivers were, things like that. The offensive line was banged up by the end of the season, and let's just say it struggled, and not to the fault of anybody. I just think that when injuries and things mount up and you still don't have a ton of depth built up, as it was a tall order to replace over half of the roster coming in from 2023, that, it just, if you sustained any sort of injury, it was going to be a struggle. So what are we expecting coming into this year? This is year 2 now of not only Diego Pavia, but Tim Beck and Jerry Kill, which I think has been a very successful duo for this team. Jerry Kill for more than just offense, head coaching as well. But for us to say, man, this offense is progressing. Man, this offense is really good in 2025. What does that look like, really? So let's start with the fearless leader, Diego Pavia. And he's coming back, won his court case, absolutely dominated his first competition in 2025, which was him against the NCAA. He got a favorable ruling, and he's coming back for an extra year. I would say it's his last year, but you never know at this point with the NCAA. I mean, Diego Pavia could be in for a 13-year career at Vanderbilt. Who knows? But that's neither here nor there. But for Diego Pavia, I think what everybody's kind of excited about is the fact that we've got a real leader at the quarterback position. And this real leader is finally getting a roster built around him, not only in the starting 11, but in the second string and the reserves coming in. I think you've got some real talent here. And he's excited. And he threw down the gauntlet. He threw down the expectation of, hey, we're going to the college football playoff. That's the expectation that's being passed around the McGugin Center. That's what they're talking about. That's what they're working out towards. That's what they're doing. And honestly, they're doing all the right things. College football is a hard thing to, the SEC is a hard league to manage. So, I mean, it's no easy task, but, they're doing all the right things. And for Diego Pavia, He's the community leader that you need. I mean, he threw out the first pitch the other day at the baseball game. Absolutely outstanding there. I mean, the guy just he pushes all the right buttons, and he's, he is representative of Vanderbilt. I mean, I think this basketball team embodied his spirit as far as hey, we may be all brand new. We may not be great. We may not be a complete team, but we're going to be a hell of a team to deal with. And we're going to exceed expectations, which I think that's the first step to building a sustainable program, is exceeding your initial expectations. And with the overhaul in football and the actual complete overhaul of the basketball program, coaches and all, I think your expectations were kind of low. They were for football in 2024. They were extremely low. They were rock bottom as far as SEC. They were dead last, expected to be dead last in basketball, and they exceeded expectations. And with football, 7-6 with a bowl win over a really good Georgia Tech team exceeded expectations because FanDuel had them at 2.5 wins. I don't think anybody had them much more than 4 wins on the season, and I think a lot of people had Clark Lee out the door. Right? That was the expectation that they had to go on with the intel from 2023, and kind of a lackluster spring period coming into 24. A lot of that was due to the fact that a lot of your roster wasn't there, and they couldn't be there because they weren't enrolled yet. So that's not the fault of anybody. You did the best you could there. But with Diego Pavia coming in, he shattered those expectations. He said, you know what? I'm going to clear those expectations in a hurry. We're going to beat Alabama. We're going to take Texas down to the wire. We're going to take Missouri to double overtime. We're going to win on the road at Auburn. We're going to win on the road at Kentucky. And we're going to give these teams all that they can handle for as long as we can. And so that is exceeding expectations. And the baseball team and the basketball team, did that as well. They had a lot of deficiencies. Vanderbilt football had a lot of deficiencies compared to their league mates. But what happened? It's the spirit there. It's the spirit that these teams embodied, and a lot of that has to do with Diego Pavia and the spirit that he brought to football. Everyone wants to replicate that. That's some leadership qualities that I think can bleed throughout the other sports. Basketball was the same way. Michaela Blake's freshman of the year, I think, just scored another 50 points last night. Actually, she didn't play, but she's scoring buckets, and the women's team exceeded expectations too. Made the tournament. Unfortunately, lost in the first round like the men's team. But again, it's that spirit. In baseball, they could use a little Diego Pavia jolt here because they're in the tank a little bit right now, but they're struggling. We'll talk more about that later in the show. But for Diego Pavia, I think you have to figure out how to improve your repertoire. Okay. Now he's good. He had a brilliant season. He's a great leader, does a lot of great things, but he would tell you this too. He needs to become a better passer. I think his downfield accuracy, if that can improve a little bit. Now, he doesn't have to go out there and be freaking Cam Ward, but I just think a little bit more deep ball accuracy will make this team pretty dangerous. And he's already a great runner, and he can continue to improve in that as well by trying to avoid taking big hits for one, and try to read the option game a little better. I think a guy like him who's eager sometimes will misread the option and not really misread it. He just won't read it at all, and he'll carry the ball because he wants the ball that badly, right? Which it's a good thing and a bad thing because you get yourself in trouble sometimes when you do that, but it's a good thing that he wants to be in that spotlight. So I think if he can improve his repertoire, become a better passer, become more accurate on deep balls, which the ones that he hit were absolutely spectacular. The one he hit to Junior Sherrill, my favorite one is the 4th-and-1 play action shot to Junior Sherrill against Alabama. The Joseph McVay shot to start the Missouri game was the first possession, first play, bomb it to Joseph McVay for a 65-yard touchdown. That got that game off to a really good start. And then the bomb to, I believe it was Junior Sherrill again again. No, it might have been McVay against LSU. I can't remember exactly. I have to go back and watch that clip. But to start the LSU game, you get a shot play, and those are the type of things that can really put a team back on its heels because they're like, oh God, Vanderbilt, they came to play. And so if he can improve that more consistently, and of course on the other end, the receivers also have to contribute to that. If he throws a good ball and they drop it, there's nothing you can really do about that. But that's something for Diego Pavia. He's got to figure out where his strong points are in the passing game, and he's just got to become overall just a better passer. He got to be more accurate. He's got to kind of understand situationally where the ball needs to go. And honestly, I think he's going to have some not veto power, but some audible power. And he's got to be able to check us in and out of good plays as well. But, just becoming an overall better quarterback. And he's a great quarterback, but he's probably more of like just a downright playmaker than he is an actual just like quarterback. That dude is an absolute freaking rocket as a quarterback, and he's a great quarterback. And I think if he continues to improve in that, as a passer, I think that will launch this team into a different stratosphere that nobody's used to, and a stratosphere that we really haven't seen Vandy approach since James Franklin. So, and all that can go through Diego Pavia. I know everybody, I for one am excited about it. Everybody's excited about Deuce, and everybody's excited about him coming back and leading this team, because who doesn't want to see a little, Diego football just absolutely lighten it up and, pissing the other team off because they're like, we cannot stop this guy. Like we should, like other teams get really frustrated because they feel like they should, God, we should be able to stop this guy. Like if you got in the mind of the other teams, they're probably thinking, this guy isn't that good. He can't throw the ball deep. We can't stop him. We can't do anything, but in reality, he just has an understanding of like where the other team is weak. I mean, it's obvious he studies film. It's obvious he does things to prepare, and it's obvious that the mindset that he has is, hey, I'm making this play. I don't care what you say, what you do. You have me hemmed up for a 2-yard loss? Nah, cuz it's an 8-yard gain. And he did that a lot early in the season. But, being a better quarterback in the passing game, becoming a better passer, and just finding ways to stay healthy also. That's part of quarterback play that you kind of have to just, be smart about. And you got to find ways to stay healthy and impact the game the way that you know how, which is just pure grit. So I'm excited about it. But what does that mean for the rest of the offense? I mean, you got the run game, you have guys on the other end of the passing game, and, well, you have a whole offensive line. So we'll talk about all of that next. Hey, daylight savings time snuck up on us again. And if you're feeling that lost hour of sleep, well, 5-Hour Energy has your back. The extra sunshine means more time for fun, but sometimes you need a little boost to power through. Whether you're staying up late watching the NCAA tournament, or the Braves on their West Coast swing, squeezing in a round of golf after work, or just trying to keep up with your busy day, 5-Hour Energy gives you a quick, refreshing pick-me-up whenever you need it. Basketball madness, man, I've been staying up late watching all this tournament action. And now that it's wrapping up, the Braves are on, and they're on a West Coast swing. So, their games are late too. And 5-Hour Energy helps me keep up the next day because, I've been dragging lately. But extra daylight means extra activities. And with longer days, I love getting outside, the weekend hikes, a run, just being outdoors, and Tropical Burst is my go-to for a quick boost. And man, it's convenient too, man, because if I'm at a game or if I'm traveling or whatever, if I'm out running errands, 5-Hour Energy is easy to grab and keeps me feeling refreshed. So head to 5hourenergy.com to find over 15 flavors to choose from, including watermelon, blue raspberry, and peach mango. You can even build your own 12-pack or 24-pack delivered right to your door. And if you need one now, you can grab a 5-Hour Energy shot at your local grocery or convenience store, man. They're everywhere. So stock up today and stay energized. All right. Thanks for making Locked On Vandy your first listen each and every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network. For a second listen, please check out Locked On SEC. Chris Gordy does a great job there. And also check out Locked On Ole Miss with Stephen Willis. What a great show there as well. And if you're wanting some Final Four stuff, Zach Blackerby at Locked On Auburn and Brandon Olson, Locked On Gators. Check those guys out. That they're representing for the SEC in the Final Four. And I never thought I'd say this, but for the sake of my bracket and for the sake of my Locked On bracket, dare I say it? Okay, I'm gonna say it. Go Gators. Okay. Oh God, that was bad. Anyway, I had to say it real quietly though. So, but for the sake of the Locked On bracket, man. Side note before I continue on with football, man. I bet everybody in Locked On saw those standings and like, who the blank is Corey Burton? And I guarantee people were saying that because it's hilarious, man. It's like it seems like the less basketball overall I watch, the better I become at the brackets, right? I watch just enough to keep me dangerous. And it's, as far as outside of Vanderbilt and a few SEC games here and there, which when I had the few SEC games here and there, I wasn't watching intently like I do with college football. I must say that having everything go chalk has been amazing for my bracket. So I guarantee you, man, there's a lot of people there that are like, man, I watched all this college basketball, and this dude, I don't even know who he is beating me in my bracket. So make sure, leave me a note in the comments. If you're in a bracket pool, are you winning? Are you in last place? Who'd you pick to win the national championship? All right. And for the sake of me winning the Locked On bracket pool, I have to say, go Gators. So shout out to you, Brandon Olson. You'll never hear me say that again. Well, you'll shout out to Brandon Olson. I'll say that. That dude's a quality dude. But as far as the Gators, you'll never hear me say that again. But anyway, I need them to win for my bracket. So I need to show a little bit of love to Florida for once in my life. Stevie Wonder style. All right. So back to football. Expectations, guys. We got better intel now as far as, we have a projected direction of this team and kind of where this identity is going to be. Okay. And honestly, if I'm reading things right based on what I'm hearing in practice, and anybody inside of Magoogan, if you're listening, you can DM me and tell me if I'm on the right track or not. But if I'm reading this correctly, the run game in 12 personnel is going to be kind of where we're headed. Bryce Coleman is outstanding. He's unguardable. That dude's a freaking stud. He's been a stud in practice. He's got to, block better, but he's been a stud in practice. And it's going to be like, if you can just find one receiver, just one, that can be a deep threat, you'll be a dangerous team, right? So run game, 12 personnel, find a deep threat. And it's not going to be Junior Sherrill. It's got to be somebody faster. It's got to be Joseph McVay. It's got to be. I don't think Bosky Barrett's going to be good, but I don't think he's going to be the vertical guy. I think it's going to be Joseph McVay. But let's start with the run game. It's got to be balanced. And when I say balanced, it's not like it's got to be more than Pavia, right? It's got to be at bare minimum 3 contributors: Pavia, Seddy, and probably MK Young if he can stay healthy. That dude can run, man. He's our home run threat. And it'd be nice if you had a 4th option there in the run game, which I think will be Martell Height on a jet sweep. And hell, if I'm counting fast screens as a run, could be Martell Height or Junior Sherrill on a fast screen. Like if we're counting that as a official run, even though they're throwing the ball out there, even though officially in the stat book it's a pass and a reception, it's really just kind of a run, unofficially. I kind of classify that as like, hey, this is my extended run game. But if you count that, which we're going to be very liberal and count that, I guess. We're going to be very like, we're going to stretch a little bit, and we're going to count that as run game. We just need more contributors, right? We just need, like, last year it was Pavia and Sedrick. And by the end of the season, it was pretty much just Diego Pavia, anything we were able to get in the run game, which by the end of the season wasn't much because teams were loading up against it. And we couldn't capitalize and take advantage of the fact that they were doing that. And that's kind of where we got ourselves in trouble. So the run game's got to be more balanced. It's got to be more than just Diego Pavia. And I think it will be. Sedrick Alexander's good. He's a great workhorse running back. He's a great grinded out, he's going to get 5-6 yards a carry, bust a couple for 20, get some chunk yardage. He's going to be a tough runner, great lead blocker in the quarterback design run game. I mean, there's just a lot of great things about Sedrick Alexander. He's not a home run hitter, which is fine. I like that. Well, I don't like that, but I think it's fine. I think he'll be great. And he's got every other quality that you want out of a starting running back. But, I think if it's just him that's performing, we're going to be in trouble again because there's only so much he can take. And he proved that a year ago. Like, this is a league where if you don't have more than one running back, you're in trouble. And if your other running option is your quarterback, you're in trouble. I don't care if it's Diego Pavia. I don't care if it's Lenora Sellers. You can't have the quarterback taking that big of a beating. You can't have Sedrick Alexander taking that big of a beating. You've got to have something else. And I think they do have that something else. And it's going to come from an unexpected source at some point in the season. There's going to be some guy you're just like, what? Who is this guy? Right? So it's got to be balanced. When I say balanced, there's got to be more guys contributing in the run game. It's just as simple as that. Offensive line needs to gel and be more consistent, especially in pass pro. I think things broke down a lot last year. Some of it, well, not some of it, probably a lot of it was injury related and guys being in spots that they weren't used to being in, guys not used to communicating with each other and not understanding that whole aspect. And, sometimes teams like Tennessee and LSU just had better dudes. Like South Carolina, I don't think we played poorly against South Carolina. I know the score would beg to differ. 28-7 is pretty lopsided, but I'll tell you what happened is they have a couple of NFL defensive ends, and those guys played their ass off. And Vandy, they hung in there and went punch for punch for a while, and then I think South Carolina was just able to outlast, and then I think it just kind of snowballed from there. But I really don't think Vanderbilt played that poorly in that game, honestly. I really don't. And I think it's encouraging that, that was argued. The people argued for them to be in the playoff. Like, that's where South Carolina was last year. People argued for them to be in the playoff. And if you asked anybody at the beginning of the season if people would be arguing for South Carolina to be in the playoff, you'd be like, what playoff? And you'd think they're crazy. And that was a reality. And then, of course, just a terrible matchup with Illinois, and Illinois just road graded them. But, that was a game of just attrition, exhaustion, and they just couldn't handle South Carolina's elite defensive front. So I think this offensive line, I think, is going to be better equipped for that. And so they're already, with Jordan White, they're already much better at communication. I think they're going to sort out pass pros and things like that. So I'm really excited about this offensive line. So this is going to be a fun year for this group. So they need to gel, and they need to find a deep threat. Simple as that. I don't need to go much into that, but I think Joseph McVay needs to be that guy. He's been that guy. He needs to be that guy plus more next year. So I'm excited to see how this offense progresses, and see where they go the next practice days. And I think they scrimmage Friday, so we'll see kind of where they're at, and just continue plugging forward, man, and getting some guys in camp and really, really grinding down some answers during fall camp, which I think you'll get a lot of questions answered then. So, but I think we have a good idea of where this offense is going to go and good idea of where they need to go. And of course, clean up the operation as far as penalties go. They just need to. So anyway, well, baseball, speaking of teams that just need to clean up their operation, baseball needs to do the same thing. And we'll talk about what that means next. Hey, the NCAA tournament is here, and if you blink, it's going to be over. The Final Four is this weekend, and FanDuel's giving you the chance to get in on the action like never before. Right now, new customers, you better hurry, can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's $200 extra bucks to use on everything from buzzer beaters. Well, there's not really any Cinderella stories now because it's all one seeds, but you can bet on who's cutting down the nets. For me, in the Locked On pool, I got to go ahead and put some money on Florida. And I got my eye on a few underdogs this year, which I think technically Florida might be an underdog, but not really because they're still a one seed. But FanDuel makes it easy to back them with spreads, totals, and game props nonetheless. And the same game parlays and all that stuff can really get a lot of fun. And with tournament games happening almost every day, there's just always something exciting to bet on. Well, you got NBA and MLB now, so there's always something to bet on, even outside of college hoops. But the FanDuel app is easy to use, and when I win, I get paid instantly, and there's no waiting around. So FanDuel.com, visit that, go to that website, and get in on the college hoops action all tournament long, which really is just Saturday and Monday. So you got very limited time left, so make sure you do it. FanDuel.com.
The NCAA tournament is here, and so is the Bracket Breakdown.
Locked On Podcast Network and Amazon Fire TV channels are teaming up to deliver NCAA tournament coverage like never before. Watch studio shows featuring former players and Locked On's local experts as they guide you through every upset, buzzer beater, and bracket matchup.
Stream it all for free on Amazon Fire TV channel. Search Bracket Breakdown to see it all for free.
It's your team every day.
All right, very quickly, we are wrapping up the show here, Locked On Vandy, on the Locked On Podcast Network, at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms. Real quick about baseball, right? They are on the struggle bus. They got the front row seat on the struggle bus. They are driving the struggle bus, actually. So how do they snap out of it? Well, here's what needs to happen. I think you need to find a way to get Austin Nye, the science guy, possibly in the weekend rotation. Like, as a midweek guy, he's been brilliant, right? He's starting to come on, man, and this is great for him. And he had, again, wasn't his fault. This midweek start against Eastern Kentucky or Western Kentucky? Whatever. He went all 5 1/3 and was brilliant, man. His execution was great. He had good command, and he just went out there and he only surrendered 4 hits and 1 run, and he didn't walk a single batter, which in college baseball it's pretty good. Struck out 9 in the process. So he's heading. Austin Nye, the science guy, surrendered 2 runs on the season in his 6 starts. He holds a 1.04 ERA and a 1-0 record. So, what's going to happen with him? Got to find some way to get him pitching some meaningful weekend innings in conference. I guess they're working him slowly up there. But you have Connor Fennell, J.D. Thompson, and Cody Bowker. So, where is he really going to go? Actually, so I don't know. But come tournament time, you'll find a role for him. And then R.J. Austin got a little bit. He's been in a massive slump. Whatever ways to break out of a slump you need. I mean, he hit a walk-off, which is an unnecessary walk-off, but a walk-off nonetheless. And with Vandy right now, a win is a win is a win. And you're preserving your perfect midweek record. And sometimes you just got to win ugly. And sometimes it's a wake-up call. Is it going to be a wake-up call this weekend? Who knows? Hopefully it will be. But you never can be you never can be too sure, because it's again, it's just, you got to figure out how to get runs across the plate. You just got to figure it out. And it's not going to get any easier this weekend. You travel down to Gainesville and you take on the Gators, who are red hot. So you're going to have to figure out some way to score some runs, because your pitching is far too brilliant for you to squander those quality starts. If you can't, that's what you got to do. You just got to find ways to your plate approach. Calm down. Like early in the season, they were scoring runs. They weren't driving it out of the park, but they were getting guys on base and getting guys around. And I think the approach at the plate has just gotten off track somehow. And their approach at the plate is they need to, I think what they need to do is see how fast they can get into the bullpen by increasing pitch counts, by taking a lot of pitches, forcing some walks, making pitchers go deep into the count, and just staying out there, forcing them to rack up their pitches and forcing them to hit the bullpen in the third, fourth inning. When you go to a college bullpen, it doesn't matter who you are, it's going to be tricky. So you have to work deep into counts at the plate, take advantage of your brilliant pitching. So that's all the fun I have. That's all the time I have. I know this has been fun. Time flies when you're having fun, right? That's a nice little idiom. But anyway, we'll holler at you next time, and we'll get you ready for the weekend. A little preview of the Florida series and some more football talk. And we'll just kind of check up on the progress and get you ready for the Friday scrimmage, and hope the weather holds up and all that good stuff. So anchor down. Peace out. Holler.